What is up? Welcome into the Early Edge powered by SportsLine. I'm your host, Allan Bell. The coach is on assignment in Atlantic City doing great work for CBS Sports HQ. So I will host the show today in his shoes, in his honor. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show. I'm going to break down what we have to do tonight. Look at my guys, M Squared, Sia, Alex, Prop Stars. It's all good to see you guys, and we're going to get to you in 1 second. But everyone in the chat, understand the rules for tonight. To win a year-long subscription to SportsLine, we have to hit 500 likes. Let's get there. Let's get there early. We'll give away 5 free year-long subscriptions to SportsLine. We get to 1,000 likes, we'll give away 10. I want to give away everything that we can tonight on Coach's expense account. I want to just drain that thing. So make sure you hit like. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well. So, fellas, see ya. Start with you, buddy. Looking sharp as always. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing really well. I'm super excited about this game. I mean, I'm excited about every game always, but this one's really interesting because I think just from a pure against the spread standpoint, this one, you could take it either way. There's some really compelling arguments for both teams.
Yeah, I completely, excuse me, I completely agree. We were talking, right before the show began, that not only from a spread perspective, from a total perspective, from, as our man Prop Star says, a opportunities perspective. Like, there are so many ways to bet on this game tonight. Prop Stars, my man Alex, how we doing, buddy?
I'm great, AB, Sia, Mikey. Nice to see you guys. I'm super excited. This game looks to be very interesting to me. My cat is here. He's super excited. He's running around like a little maniac. So yeah, I've got some terrorism happening in my room. So if you see like just a glimpse of something flying across the screen, everything's okay.
All right, well, that's good to know. And if we see something fly across, it's either the cat or NATO coming in. So either way, we're going to be all set there. M Squared. Now, you live legitimately, I think, about 18 feet away from Nissan Stadium where the game is going to be happening tonight. As you have seen, like me, across the city all weekend, there are Bills fans everywhere. They have came into town strong.
Yeah, no, there are definitely Bills fans everywhere. And the unfortunate part of living so close to the stadium, too, if I do not go to the game and I watch it on TV, I can hear the touchdown cannons before the player reaches the end zone. So it's a little spoiler alert at some points. I see the ball snapped on TV sometimes, and it must be a Derrick Henry touchdown, must be an A.J. Brown bomb. But, hey, I'm doing well. Lots of Bills fans out there. Almost purchased some illegals Bills gear on the streets today. But, yeah, I'm very interested to see. It could be a 70-30 split there tonight in terms of the number of fans.
I'm not going to lie. We were all hoping, on the group text that you're going to show up to the show tonight in some of that illegal Bills gear, that was being sold on the street. But you know what? There'll be another primetime game here in Nashville. We'll just have to wait for that one. All right, everybody in the chat, make sure if you think that the over is going to hit tonight, type over right now in the chat. If you want to just make Coach angry, type under, and he'll get all of those notifications. And you know what? Nobody would like that more than me. All right, let's jump into the game here. All right, we've got the Bills -6 in Tennessee. We've seen this number. When it came out, it was Bills -3. It's gone up 3 points all the way to 6, a total of 53.5. So let's just start here with just thoughts about the game, right? You could take it from a spread perspective, a total perspective, just a game script perspective. M Squared, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts just coming into the game tonight?
My thoughts right now at this point is it's very difficult for me to not the Tennessee Titans +6, +6.5 on some books. The 6.5 is still a much better number than the 6. 6 is a very key number in the NFL. Now 5 and 6 are both way more common, way more key number after they move the extra point back. But that's my thoughts on it here. I think this number, it's a tough spot for sportsbooks. We say it all the time. The public's going to be all over them. The sharps are going to be all over them like they were until the number gets to about 5. And then it's still going to be a lot of public money coming in there. It should be about 4.8 to 5 is where that number should be. Once you get to 6 and once it gets you through those two key numbers in the NFL, it's really, really, really time to start considering taking the other side. And that's what's presented itself now. I think we get 6.5 on a few books. And there's a good chance that I end up locking in Titans +6.5 before the end of the show tonight.
Now, we look at a Buffalo Bills team who, in regular season games, the last 14, they've gone to halftime with a lead. Sia, what are your thoughts on this game tonight?
Well, it's funny that you bring up halftime because I like the Bills here, but I acknowledge that it's kind of a square play, right? I mean, everybody's going to like the Bills for obvious reasons. So the reason that halftime triggered something for me is because I think there's a live bet opportunity here potentially, especially if you think the Titans come out strong with that, home field, whether it's a 70-30 split or not, it's going to be home field advantage. So I think maybe if you can get the Titans to get a touchdown early, then all of a sudden, boom, that line goes from whatever, 6, 6.5, 5.5, wherever you got it, down to maybe, -3 or 2.5 or something like that. So I think if you want to bet the Bills, I might gamble and wait for that. Even if the Bills, score first and they go up like 3-0, I don't think it's going to drastically change that original line. So something to consider. But as far as this game is concerned, it's hard for me to get away from just the idea that the Bills are the far superior team here. Defensively, they've been great. Like, let's not forget, they got a lot of guys on defense, like Star Lua Talele. They drafted some guys on defense that weren't there last year. And if you recall, they lost 42-16 last year to these Tennessee Titans. So for those of you that think this might be a letdown spot after that Kansas City win, I think the coaching staff is going to remind them how they were embarrassed last year. And honestly, on offense and defense, that they are truly superior really in every aspect of this game. So it's hard for me to not play the square play. I like the Bills.
Yeah. Look, let me say this. I think you brought up an excellent point that a lot of people probably forgot about. That week 4 game last year, that COVID week where they played on a Tuesday, just kind of out of the blue, and the Titans blew them out of the water. Yeah. The Bills remember that. The Bills fans remember that, right? And Prop Stars coming to you in terms of that on both sides of the Bills and the Titans. There are so many star players, star names that we have in terms of how you would say opportunities. What do you see it coming out of this game tonight?
Yeah, there's a whole lot to look at, AB. This game is really interesting. It obviously has a high total, which I anticipate we're going to touch on shortly. But yeah, on both sides of the football, to me, this game projects to be high scoring. There should be a lot of offense. The Bills have looked absolutely dynamic on both sides of the football. I'm leaning with Sia here, though. I probably am a square better when it comes to spreads and totals, admittedly, as I put very little focus on it throughout the course of the week. But I have a hard time seeing how this Titans team is going to show up and be in a close game versus the Bills team that we've seen over the past 4 weeks. If we get the Bills team that showed up in the first week versus Pittsburgh, where they obviously lost, but the Bills team over the past 4 weeks has looked like the best team in football to me.
Oh, I think so too. And that's considering that we have an undefeated team in the Arizona Cardinals who haven't slowed down at all. But what Buffalo does is just incredible. Their last 4 road games in the regular season, they've won by 18 points or more. In fact, that game last week against the Kansas City Chiefs, that was the closest road game they've had in a while. And even God in a lightning storm couldn't slow that thing down, right? Legitimately, it's just incredible team to watch on both sides of the ball. M Squared, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I've got a stat for you. Just one. I'm going to give it to you because it's something that you would normally bring up, and I'm sorry if you're going to bring it up later.
No, let it
Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. When this man is an underdog, he's got one of the better against the spread records in the NFL. So when you look at the games when the team is at least a 3-point underdog or more, he is 13-5 against the spread in the NFL.
That's incredible. 13-5. And these are in games that theoretically they should not be in. You're right. It's nuts, and he's proven it. Look at the Seahawks game earlier this year, right? I didn't know that number, but that perception obviously is there. You're right. Like when the Titans are that ultimate team that when everyone is off the bandwagon, you jump on, right? And when everyone's on the bandwagon, get the hell off, right? Like they legitimately live up to that. So that's an amazing stat. Let's take a look here real quick at where we stand in terms of official picks that we've made from anyone, on the early edge at SportsLine. I'm on the Bills -3, jumped on that as soon as the number came out. RJ White is on the Bills -4.5. Zach Attack, our man, he's on the Bills -6. Okay, so I want to jump into props immediately because I think that this is a game to where, Sia, you brought it up, right? We have a number here, and I'm with you in terms of saying, you know what, -6 is a square number, but I like it. I do too. But I also understand M squared saying, you know what? It gets to 6.5. I like Tennessee, I think, in this. You know what I mean? So it's like it's so difficult that there are so many, prop opportunities that we're going to have. So let's start with the quarterbacks here. And Jeweler, I know that I just threw this on you, but if you get a second, pull that up at the Caesars Sportsbook so we can take a look. Let's just talk about Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, okay? And I believe Josh Allen, his passing numbers are around 294. It might have gone to 300, to be completely honest with you. I haven't looked here in about an hour or so. But just thoughts on Josh Allen as a whole while the Jeweler's pulling this up. Sia, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts here? Okay, yeah, all right. So we've got Josh Allen 302.5 over under. Ryan Tannehill 244.5. So Sia, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Josh Allen?
Yeah, a lot of these numbers are moving in the favor of kind of additional yards for Josh Allen and some of these other props that we're gonna show you and talk about later. I like it. I mean, I don't love it, but we know Josh Allen keeps his foot on the pedal no matter what the score is. I mean, they play at a pretty high pace relative to other teams. And again, to me, there's a few quarterbacks that are kind of like in an MVP push. They just aren't saying it out loud. Tom Brady's one of them. I think Josh Allen is another guy. And I think if and when they're up by double digits, if that happens and it's in the early fourth quarter, he's still going to be throwing the ball. He's going to be peppering his variety of targets. And that's another reason I really like this Bills team is because they have so many targets. We think of Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs, but they also have Cole Beasley. They also have Dawson Knox, who's emerging. Gabriel Davis tucked away for emergency occasions. I mean, it's really a full deck of receivers to throw to, and they don't run the ball that much, even in positive game scripts. So I'm not in love with the number because it's kind of high, but I would, if I had to bet it, I would take the over here.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And I'll get to Alex M squared here in 1 second. I don't want to take any of your thunder here, but I'm with you that whether the Bills are up by 40, whether the Bills are down by 40, like they're throwing the ball. Like that's just how their offense is, not only in terms of the offensive playbook, but just their aggressive style. Like they just do not stop. Prop stars, I'll go next to you. What do you think about Josh Allen here? 302.5.
Yeah, I'm personally leaning over on that number. The Titan, he just matches up really well against this Titans team, and specifically this Titans secondary. Despite the Titans having played one less game than almost every single team, obviously besides the bye week teams and the Bills, they've given up the fifth most yards to opposing wide receivers. So, yeah, their defense is a pass funnel. They're very susceptible to allowing big plays, which is going to touch on one of the props that I like later. But, yeah, I'm leaning over with Josh Allen. I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. I think he's going to exploit a lot of holes and weaknesses in this Tennessee secondary.
Yeah, especially with the Titans corner, Christian Fulton, going to IR. That's going to be tough. Everyone in the comment section, hit the like button right now. We are so close to 500. We're going to get to 1,000 tonight, or I'm literally going to punish you by not allowing anyone to get off of this stream, and we're going to be going till 3 a.m, right, until we hit it. But for real, hit 500. Hit the like button right now. Let's get it. Yeah, prop stars, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, it's just one more thing I wanted to touch on, and I think this is kind of being overlooked when looking at this Bills offense, looking at Josh Allen, and even looking at some of these passing numbers. The addition of Manny Sanders to this Bills offense cannot be understated. His impact has been tremendous. He's opened things up tremendously for everybody. I know Stephon Diggs' numbers haven't been quite as impressive as they have last year. Cole Beasley has been a little bit down, but just looking across at these Bills skill position players, to me, this is as talented as an offense as anything besides the Cardinals, frankly. Like you look at tight end Dawson Knox, you look at Beasley, you look at Diggs, you look at Manny Sanders, who looks phenomenal in this offense. Yeah, there's just a ton of explosive options. They have two running backs who can both catch passes and who are solid. So yeah, I think this offense is legit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, there's so many options, right? There's so many opportunities of players. Everybody in the chat, type in, what do you think about Josh Allen, 302.5 yards passing tonight? Do you like the over? Do you like the under? Type that in the chat right now. Type over or type under. That's all you got to hit. M squared, what are your thoughts here, Josh Allen?
I would lean towards the over, but I would do the same with Ryan Tannehill. I think that whichever way you lean on the Allen prop is the way I would lean on the Tannehill prop. If we have a game where Allen is comfortably over 300, I believe that Ryan Tannehill will get there just through sheer volume and the way that they're going to have to play in the second half of this game. And especially now that Derrick Henry is a little bit more involved in the passing game, their other better pass catching running back, Jeremy McNichols, is active for this game as well. So I think that also helps Ryan Tannehill. This is another classic case of I think that these numbers are pretty highly correlated. So if you're leaning over on one, I would look to the over on the other one as well.
I love that thought process. And yeah, getting to Ryan Tannehill. So AJ Brown active tonight. Julio Jones active tonight. Prop stars, run it back to you. Ryan Tannehill, 244.5 passing yards. Over, under, where do you lean? What do you think?
Yeah, leaning over as well. I also, just to jump on what Mike said, I agree that if you like Allen's number, then it's likely going to correlate to Tannehill having to throw the ball a lot. One thing that is interesting, though, about the Titans' offense is even when they're down double digits and in a scenario where pretty much every other team would abandon the run, they do not. They keep feeding Henry even in scenarios where pretty much every single offense or coach would start throwing a lot. So, yeah, I'm hoping to see, because we do have a healthy Julio Jones who practiced in full for the first time, I believe, since week 3, and A.J. Brown also active. I want to see this Tennessee passing team open up. I'm hoping that they're going to air the ball out more than they have recently.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up Derrick Henry, because Jeweler, after we talk with Sia in regards to his thoughts on Ryan Tannehill, pull up Derrick Henry's rushing yards for tonight. So, Sia, what are your thoughts here? Ryan Tannehill, 244.5.
244.5 is a pretty low number, especially when you have your full complement of receivers. I mean, the one thing I'll say is that the Bills will create a pass rush, but I still think, you know, with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, you've got receivers that you can, you know, if you get the ball out fast, they can create after the catch. So I think that's really a positive correlation with this as well, having those two guys back specifically. I think everything Ryan Tannehill oriented is pretty positive. And what I mean by that, and I think this might be a SportsLine play as well, Ryan Tannehill's over rushing yards, and I know we'll get to that, but I think that's another one because of that pressure that gets created by the Bills defense. I think that's a good one as well.
Yep, I definitely agree there. All right, let's take a look at Derrick Henry's rushing yards. I know earlier today it was 97.5. I don't know if it's moved too terribly much from that. 94.5. Okay, there we go. All right, 94.5. All right, see ya. I'm just going to come right back to you. 94.5. Derrick Henry over under. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't love this one. If I had to bet it, I'm laying off it because it is Derrick Henry. I would be on the under here. I just think that the Bills are going to key in on the run. I think that's the one thing they know they have to stop. And it's like, okay, Ryan, like we're going to find out if you can utilize these big time receivers, and we're going to find out if these big time receivers are actually healthy. So I think, you know, we know with Derrick Henry, you know, sometimes he sort of has to get going, and usually once they're playing with the lead, they just feed him and he just goes and he goes and he goes. 94.5 isn't a super high number for Derrick Henry, but I don't love it. I feel like I'm chasing the obvious here, and I think the Bills defense is just good enough, especially along that defensive line, to key in on him and make the under come in.
Yeah, it's fascinating that, you know, Derrick Henry leads the NFL with 128 rushing yards per game this season, but Derrick Henry's played the Buffalo Bills 3 times. He's never gone over 80 yards rushing against them. Prop stars, what do you think, man?
Yeah, just to touch on your point there, AB, the last time these two teams played, I know that obviously Tennessee won the game by a lot, but Henry had 57 rushing yards. That is his lowest total that he's had in his past or previous 30 regular season games. So, yeah, I agree with Sia's point. The Bills are going to place a lot of emphasis on slowing down Henry. Much easier said than done. In theory, this is a low number for him. He's obviously been just absolutely fantastic this year. His numbers are just out of this world. His usage is incredible. It's just unbelievable to me how durable this guy is, and the fact that he hasn't broken down. He seems to get better as the game wears on and the more contact he absorbs. But yeah, this is a number that I'm personally staying away from. If I had to choose, I would definitely lean under as well, though.
M squared, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing there. I'm not going to play the under because he could definitely get there. And I do think the game can be a lot more competitive than the general consensus is in this one. But it's just such a tough number because he's obviously has so much upside. So I'm not going to play the under on it. I would lean towards the under by about 4 yards. But again, those kind of margins with this kind of player in this situation, primetime at home, I want absolutely no part of it.
Yeah, you know, and I thought that, you know, you brought up a good point pretty much all week. You brought it up earlier in terms of the Titans using running backs in the passing game. not only Derrick Henry with the Maestro going with over 13.5 receiving yards this morning, but M Squared, you brought up a great point in terms of Jeremy McNichols, right? That's been a guy that they've used incredibly heavy, at least early in the year. And now that they've kind of figured this part out with Derrick Henry, which is surprising that if anybody who's watched the Titans before this season, the one thing that Derrick Henry could not do was catch out of the backfield. Like they had tried it, and the guy just couldn't get it down. So it's fascinating to see him this year, add that wrinkle to the offense. All right, it looks like we've hit 500 likes. Keep smashing that button. Let's get to 1,000. I'm telling you, I want to make it so bad on the coach's expense account tonight that literally from the hotel, he sends a Twitter video just screaming at us, right? Like, I think that would be fantastic. That'd really set the tone for tonight. But I'll tell you what, we've hit 500. And the jeweler has taken care of what we need to do. So here are our 5 winners so far. At Forch15, at Curly Sean, 2 A's there, at Scott J. Bow, at Shafe55, and at CPMC87. Congratulations, you 5 are our winners so far. But you know what? Got more work to do, and we got more subs to give. So hit that like button. Let's get to 1,000. Let's hit the subscribe button as well. It's free. Make sure that you don't miss any of these shows, and we will continue on going. Now, I want to get to the props that you guys like, all right? And I'm going to start here with you, Sia, and let me take a look here at what you have on the board. All right, looks like you have one on Josh Allen. Feed it to me, buddy. What do you got?
Yeah, so, get it while it's hot, because this is 20 minutes ago, it was Josh Allen's longest completion, 38.5 yards. Before I tell you why I like that, it's already at 39.5, which I still like, by the way. So that line appears to be moving. Hopefully, it doesn't move too much. But 39.5 right now, this is a Tennessee defense that these receivers, and there's a lot of them. We talked about it earlier. Especially guys like Emmanuel Sanders, even Stephon Diggs, maybe a Gabriel Davis. These guys can get behind this defense. And so the way Josh Allen is completing the long ball, if you remember 2 years ago, Josh Allen was kind of like a running joke, right? Because the long ball, he'd be like 10 yards off. It was just one of those things. He couldn't get it right. Last year, he really improved. His long ball, let's say 20 yards or greater, he's hitting at a 50% rate this season. That is a tremendous number for the deep ball. So I think you're going to see at least 3 to 5 to 6 shots deep by Josh Allen. And that alone, getting a reception, you're going to see that prop come in. But you also have guys that can take it, after the catch here too. So even if it's a shorter route is what I'm saying. So I think that's a really fair number for Josh Allen. I expect him to complete at least 2 to 3 of these balls that are traveling in terms of air yards in that 30 to 40 yard range.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Anybody that's watched the Titans this year, quite frankly, anybody watched the Titans last year. Last year, they had the worst third down secondary, I believe, in the history of the NFL. And they won 11 games doing it, but it was horrific. And then this year, you see they've gotten a little bit better, but Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars had their way in regards to the long ball. Now, Tennessee, pretty much owned the game. Derrick Henry did his thing, but Trevor got his numbers. The receivers got their numbers, and especially the longer that the pass went, quite frankly, the better that it got. So I agree with you on that one. Prop stars, we'll go to you, my man. You've got 2 here. You got one on Josh Allen. You got one on Julio Jones. Feed me both, baby. What you got?
Yeah, so I just want to preface this by saying neither of these are official plays for me. These are leans. I'm not making them official plays. I do like both props. I don't love both props enough to give them out as official picks, so I just want to clarify that. But yeah, I'm backing Sia here as well. I love that prop. Josh Allen's longest completion over 38.5. Sia just mentioned it's now presently at 39.5. I would still play it there. The Bills have had at least one 37-yard reception in all 5 games this season. There are just a tremendous amount of deep threat weapons on this Bills offense down the field. Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, and don't forget about Dawson Knox. We saw that huge catch that he had last week. I know you were on his prop as well, AB. Dawson Knox looks to be a very adept downfield tight end. Very impressed by him. The Titans allow the 5th highest yards per pass attempt, 4th highest yards per completion. They've allowed a whopping 20 gains of 20-plus yard completions this season. We all know Josh Allen has a huge arm. He loves taking shots down the field. This Titans secondary is very susceptible to allowing big plays as well. So yeah, I really like this prop. as a lean. But yeah, it's Josh Allen's longest completion. The other prop, I think Mikey is backing this one as well, that I like, is Julio Jones over 47.5 receiving yards. Yeah, Julio practiced in full for the first time, I believe, since week 3, and one of the only times this season. We've seen Julio deal with a litany of injuries this season, and frankly, the past few years. He's played through a lot of these injuries, and when he's played through them, he's been less than 100%. He hasn't been effective when he's played through injuries. So the fact that he's practicing in full, to me, is a very encouraging sign. It's at least encouraging me enough to make it a lean, and to, I'll take the discount. I think 47.5 yards is a great number for him. And I expect this game script to be advantageous to Julio Jones. I think this Titans team, in order for them to be competitive and keep up with this high-powered, explosive Bills offense, is going to have to throw the ball. Tannehill finally has his 2 stud wide receivers, hopefully mostly healthy. A.J. Brown is still dealing with an injury. I know he's not playing a full complement of snaps, but yeah, the fact that Julio practiced in full, to me, is a very encouraging sign. Getting the 47.5 discount, I'll take it. I like it as a lean.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you look at this Titans offense that, this season, we really haven't seen the entire thing out there. Go ahead. Yeah. What do you?
One real quick thing I just wanted to say. Another thing that's preventing me from making this an official play is this Bills secondary has been exceptionally stingy. They have allowed 558 receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. That is the lowest total in the NFL. So yeah, this Bills secondary has been tough on wide receivers, and that is coming with the Bills playing with huge leads and the opposing teams having to throw the ball a lot against this Buffalo team. So the fact that they are leading the league in this category, and this offense has had pretty much huge leads in their last 4 games and in the first half of the first game, tells me this secondary is very tough, very stingy, not to be messed with. Julio is capable, though, at 47.5 yards.
Yeah, Leslie Frazier's done a heck of a job with that defense, and you're right. All the offense gets all the love and all the credit. Nobody talks about this defense. Like, not only the secondary, their rush defense, I think, is top 2 in the NFL. Now, it helps when you're up by 20 points, seemingly in every single game, but still. I mean, like you said, when you're up that high, you're going to get way more in terms of passes, just thrown at you, and they stand up. So, I'm with you. This defense is really, really good. M squared, right before we get to you, I do need to highlight this here. AB, this could be a kicker prop night. What do you think? I like Randy Bullock over 6.5 points. Look, here's the deal. First off, I like Randy Bullock, and we all know that my history with kicker props the last 5 weeks, I don't want to get the man fired. He has a family. I want his kids to stay in school. No, look, here are my honest thoughts on it, right? I'm not putting anything on the Bills in terms of kicking field goals because, honestly, they just don't really do it. But in terms of the Titans, my concern would be that if they get behind, like we kind of all think that the game script will say, that kind of goes out the window too, right? So all jokes aside, there's a lot of risk there. The field goal aspect could be out, by halftime, honestly. So I say that Randy Bullock will have 7 field goals tonight, but I would just be careful. I would caution on that. That one could be tough. All right, M squared. You have Julio Jones as well, over 47.5 receiving yards. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this one is an official play for me. It's one of my favorite ones. Frankly, it's one of the biggest edges I've seen all season. The only thing there that takes me down on it a little bit is the re-injury concern with the hamstring with Julio. He's been relatively injury prone throughout his career. That's really the only thing for me. Otherwise, this number at 47.5, it should literally be 63, 64.5 in pretty much any matchup that has this much of a negative game script for the team, positive game script for him. This is a great spot for him. I know that the Bills have not been allowing a lot of yards to wide receivers. However, on an individual one-on-one matchup, it is still a plus matchup for him in the matchups that he will see. Having to deal with Derrick Henry is a little different. So the Bills typically have invited teams to run the football and sit back and make it tough on the passing game. I don't know that they will continue to completely invite the running game against Derrick Henry. I think that they will change things up just a little bit to try and stop it. Frankly, they'll have to if they just let him run. But also having A.J. Brown out there really helps. So we talked about it last week with the Colts and Carson Wentz and that team finally being healthy. It was his first week of practice there. like Alex mentioned, this is really the most healthy he's been all season and the most chemistry that they will have had all season, because this team was dealing with COVID issues early in the season. They've had the injuries. It's been an absolute mess for them. Now they are at home here in a primetime game that, frankly, is almost like their Super Bowl. They need to win these games to keep the season on track. They're going to be up. They're going to be ready for it. This number is simply too soft. We've seen it in the game with Seattle. They ended up getting down. I think they were down like 24-9 at halftime in that game. Going to be a very similar thing here in this game, in my opinion. So I really like the spot for him. He was peppered with 8 targets in that game, 130 yards. And of course, if you know anything about Julio, he has the ability to make 47.5 yards on one play.
Yes, he does. All right, and Jeweler, here in just a second, I want to talk about Josh Allen, his rushing props. But real quick, I want to give you mine. Now, everyone asks in terms of, Ryan Tannehill, the short passing game to the running backs, whether it be Derrick Henry, whether it be Jeremy McNichols, like, where has this come from so strong? All right, and I'm going to tell you, I've watched every play of the Tennessee Titans, I think, for 18 years, right, just being here in Nashville. If anyone has watched them this year, Ryan Tannehill has been sacked 20 times. He has been on his back all day. So there's a reason why they have leaned on that short passing game, because, quite frankly, it looks somewhat similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers of last year at times, to where he just doesn't have any time. He just literally doesn't have any time. And Ryan Tannehill's tough as hell, man. Like, this guy has stood in there and delivered. And they're what, 3-2? Like, I mean, the guy's been in there fighting for it. But my official play tonight is Anthony Fergusor, Tennessee Titans tight end, over 2.5 receptions. Exactly that. You look, every game that Ferguson's played in this season, he's had 3 receptions. The last 2 games, he's been targeted 9 times. Now, the hard part is that the Titans have 3 different tight ends that they can go to. Anthony Ferguson's their one. He's their guy. But Michael Pruitt really has gotten a lot of the love lately. Jeff Swain as well has gotten some love. So you're going to see some mixture there. Yeah, M Squared, what do you got?
Is Swain active or inactive tonight? I need to check that.
I did not see him on the inactives. Check that.
Okay.
But I didn't see him on there. Anthony Fergusor, he is definitely their one, at least in terms of the reps and the play stat percentages that he gets with the team. So I'm going to go over 2.5 receptions there. I think that it's something that whether they're up, whether they're down, and especially coupled, with Derrick Henry, if he can't get the run game going, I'd love it even more. So yeah, over 2.5, and that's priced at -105. So that's an official play for me. I also have a lean. I haven't put this in, but Josh Allen, anytime touchdown, +140. Look, he hasn't as of late really had to do it, but when they get inside the 5, he's a large part of their red zone rushing offense. Same thing with Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill can bust out one as well. Like, I think we are live for both quarterbacks in terms of possibly getting a rushing touchdown. So I haven't put it in official, but it's just something to think about. But yeah, Anthony Fergusor over 2.5. I really like that. Now, everybody, welcome in. We are about 25 minutes away from kickoff, so we definitely want to get this thing going. We want to get this show. Make sure you get your props out there. And you know what? We've got all the guys here for my favorite part of the show, the Van Jefferson Memorial. Now, everybody, we're going to do this. We're going to do it early, but we have got to hit some likes. Hold on. Jacob, the jeweler, I asked you for something first. Josh Allen rushing yards. I want to pull that up if you have it. Yeah, go ahead. Prop stars, what you got?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on it. I believe it's 33.5. Is that correct?
I think it's somewhere around there. Jeweler's pulling that up right now. Yeah, it's around there. Yeah, go ahead. What are your thoughts? We'll get on the screen here in a second.
Yeah, so Allen's had at least 35 rushing yards in 4 or 5 games so far. I think that's going to continue to be a theme for the Bills. He generates a lot of rushing offense with his legs for this offense. You kind of mentioned like the MVP campaign narrative. I think that is buying in. I think he's just putting up some really gaudy numbers. This Bills offense, they don't use their backs a ton. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, they average, fewer than double-digit carries per game. The Bills are able to generate a lot of offense with Josh Allen's legs. He is a great runner. Obviously, if you're the team, you don't want him taking on these, risking his body and taking on some of these big hits because he does throw his body around out there. But yeah, he does run a lot. I think it's a low number. I like this as a lean over on his rushing yards.
I like that. Any thoughts that you guys have in squared? See ya. Any thoughts here?
It's a stay away for me, and it's only because I think he's going to have such an easy time passing the ball downfield, and that's partly because the Titans don't really generate a pass rush. So, and he gets the ball out fast. I think he's just going to have a field day, just peppering whatever targets he chooses to pepper. So, I guess my point there is the need to rush in this game might not be as much as maybe some other games, but I don't mind the play. Like if I had to bet it, I probably would take the over, but it's definitely a stay away for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those classic ones for me where there's no chance I'm taking the under on it, but I'm not taking the over right now. And then what I would like to do, if you have a sports book that allows you to live bet props in the game, if you notice that the game is just more competitive overall than you anticipated it being, he hasn't busted a long run yet, that 34.5 number. Like if we're talking late second quarter, early third quarter, and he's only got 6 yards rushing in the game at that point, that number is going to come down from 34.5 to like 19, 18, somewhere in there, to the point where you can realistically get it in 1 to 2 more rushes if the game is competitive. That is how I would elect to play it. But if you want a true lean on it, the true lean is still to the over, not the under. But I'll be looking to play it live in a more competitive game if that's what we get.
Yeah, I like the way that you said that I'm not playing the under by any means, but I'm not playing the over just yet. Yeah, prop stars, what you got, bud?
He does run, though, even in scenarios where they're up 3 scores, they're up 20 points, the game is in hand. Like, I agree with all that logic, but yeah, he just surprises me. He runs even in scenarios where you would think they wouldn't be obvious running scenarios. He's just running a lot, regardless of if they're up 3 scores in the second half versus a Dolphins team that has 0 chance of being competitive. Yeah, he's just very active as a runner, and I just think that's something he likes doing. And yeah, I'd be surprised if it goes under.
Yeah, and I mean that's a credit to we were talking about it earlier. This Bills offense, and Brian Dable and how he calls it. Like they're just aggressive. Like they run who they are the entire game, whether they're up 20, whether they're up 2,000. Like it doesn't matter. Like they do not stop being who they are. So yeah, they're a phenomenal. If you bet props, like, the Buffalo Bills are your team. Now, you're going to get some inflated numbers out there for sure because so many people want to do it. But, you want a team that doesn't, take it easy, take the foot off the gas. Yeah, that's your squad there. Yeah, what up?
I should say if you like overs, they're your team, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a definitely good point. All right, let's pull up our official plays for tonight. All right, it's 8 o'clock Eastern. We want to make sure everybody's got an opportunity to do it. So, I am on Anthony Fergusor over 2.5 receptions tonight. Sia, you are on Josh Allen over 38.5. His longest completion. M squared, Julio Jones over 47.5 receiving yards. Previous shows, I'm on the Bills -3. RJ, Bill -4.5. Zach Attack, Bills -6. And the Maestro on Derrick Henry over 13.5 receiving yards. All right, so M squared, real quick. Same game parlay, buddy. What you got, man?
Same game parlay. Let me see if I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. Let me see what I put it in earlier. I did send it in the email. There you go. So this one's on DraftKings Sportsbook, taking both sides here. I am in the camp that believes this game can be a lot more competitive than the consensus. So I'm taking the Bills plus 3.5. I do not envision the scenario where the Titans win by more than a field goal, no matter what. Taking the Titans plus 14.5. The alternative over at 43.5, and then Julio Jones over 34.5 receiving yards. Put all 4 of those together, comes back at plus 205 on DraftKings.
That's beautiful. I love it. Do you have something?
Mike made such a compelling argument for Julio. I'm going to make him an official play of mine.
Oh,
there you go.
All right. I like it. All right. You know what? In honor of you doing that, let's get to the most fun part of the show here. All right. Our Dan Jefferson Memorial. Chief, look. Oh, man, I love it. Look, Chief's fired up. He knows that's his favorite part of the show, too. All right. So, Sia, I'm going to start with you here. You know what? And I'm not even going to take away your presence. You just make it felt. What do you got here?
Yeah, so I'm shooting for the stars again. I'm shooting for another 35-1 shot. It's a guy that's really not getting the snap share that anybody really expected. He's not running the number of routes that anybody expected, and he's not getting the receptions that anyone expected, which, by the way, is why he's 35-1 in a relative long shot to some of these other guys. His name is Gabriel Davis, and I think a lot of people at the beginning of the year, they thought it was going to be Gabriel Davis, maybe Emmanuel Sanders kind of sharing some of that time. Well, obviously, Emmanuel Sanders is fountain of youth, whatever you want to call it. This guy has really stepped up. He's an excellent receiver. We've always known that. Anybody from the Pittsburgh Steelers that goes, they're all good. Pittsburgh always drafts great receivers. But the point is, I think we can maybe take advantage of a perception about Gabriel Davis that he's just not on the field. And in week 5 against Kansas City, he really wasn't on the field. But at 35-1, I'm willing to make the logical leap that people in that room know how talented Gabriel Davis is. He's in his second year, 4th round pick, I believe, out of UCF. This guy has speed, and I already have the longest completion at 38.5 yards in terms of it, taking the over on that. And I think Gabriel Davis is just the type of guy to be in on potentially a 3 wide receiver or 4 wide receiver set, and just gets lost in the shuffle because everybody's paying attention to the guys that are normally on the field, and Davis is behind the defense, and he's got a 40, 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Prop stars. Now, you've got a more economical number, but it's kind of surprising the name associated with this number. What do you got?
Yeah, AB, I just have to, full confessional here. You and I have yet to hit one of these. We're here with Mike. We're here with Sia, who have each hit this. It's like just been, I haven't slept at night. It's just driving me nuts. I need to hit this Van Jefferson Memorial prop. I went with the squarest possible play I could find on the board, and I did actually think it provided some good value, but it is Arthur Juan Brown, a.k.a. A.J. Brown, for his first touchdown. It's at plus 1,000. A.J. Brown had 19 career touchdowns in just 30 games coming into this season. He is one of the premier red zone weapons in the league. Due to injuries, the Titans offense struggling, a variety of other factors. He's had just 1 touchdown through 4 games. He is playing on a limited snap count, but you best believe when they are in the red zone that he is going to be out there for Ryan Tannehill. They have obviously a very strong connection when they're in the red zone. He is an elite red zone weapon. As I previously mentioned, I think he's got a great shot to find the end zone tonight. And I think if they're from 15 yards out, that is exactly who Tannehill is going to be looking at. So I'll go A.J. Brown, first touchdown.
Well, I'll tell you what, everybody in the chat, drop in right now who your pick is. Who do you think is going to score the first touchdown in the game tonight between the Bills and the Titans? And prop stars, I do have to give you some props here on this one. Going with the Arthur Juan Brown. I've got to give a shout out here, Titans Radio, 2 friends of mine, Mike Keith and our man, Coach Mack. They love to say Arthur Juan Brown as well. So fantastic. Well done on that. All right, M squared, you're going the 34-1 route. What you got?
I am, and it's very similar to the play that Sia gave, just going to be on the other team. It's going to be Chester Rogers for me. He's going to be out there. He's going to be part of the Titans attack tonight. We'll see how they limit A.J. Brown's snaps, whether they limit those early in the game, whether they want him more available in the 4th quarter. We'll see what happens, but I do think he's going to be out there on the field. I think that he's going to be a weapon for them. If you already looked at inactives, Reynolds is inactive tonight. That is a good thing for Chester Rogers and some of the routes that he could be potentially running here. So I like it here. The value is just simply too good at 34. It should be 26, 2,700. So that's where I'm going with it.
I like it. Now, prop stars, you mentioned a second ago that me and you are the only ones that have yet to hit one of these. And you're correct. And your thought process of going square was smart. I thought the same thing. Now, pause real quick. Oh, I just saw it in the chat. We were talking about Arthur Juan Brown. Our man, Quintoris Lopez. Yeah, dude. Julio Jones. This is an all-name wide receiver team for the Tennessee Titans. I just wanted to say it because it was out there. All right, so I had the same exact thought process. I first looked at Josh Allen, plus 800. Didn't fit the criteria. I looked at Ryan Tannehill, plus 2,200. Did fit the criteria. So I didn't really follow through on it like you did. That was a smart play by you. I just went with the correlating play. I went Anthony Fergusor. All right, plus 2,000, plus 2,200, plus 2,500, depending on your book. I've seen it all over the place. But no, I honestly, I think that if the Titans get down there in the red zone, I think that they understand that they have to get every single 7 that they can. 3s aren't going to do it, and they have to get these touchdowns, especially if they have the opportunity first to do it. So it's really tough with Derrick Henry. Basically, once you get to the 8, maybe even the 12, right? It's really difficult because he is getting every single opportunity. But I think that creates an equal opportunity for the tight ends, because if you can suck that defense in, but you have attention to an AJ Brown, attention to a Julio Jones. It leaves a tight end that how many guys you got? You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thought process on it. Jeweler, pull those up so we can take a look here so everybody can see our Van Jefferson Memorial first touchdowns. So we can take a look at that. Yep, here we go. All right, so I got Anthony Fergusor plus 2,000. Square Chester Rogers plus 3,400. Alex is on AJ Brown plus 1,000. Sia's on Gabriel Davis plus 3,500. Okay, now there's been a lot. This has been an exciting show. Where are we? Are we at 1,000 likes yet? Like, smash that. We are running out of time. You only have a couple minutes to do it. So I want to talk about and just take a look at some questions, some thoughts of guys in terms of props that we didn't really touch on. Okay. And Jeweler, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Guys like Dawson Knox, right? Like, where do we stand on that? Guys like Stephon Diggs, right? Like, I don't have the number in front of me, Jeweler. Pull up either one of those guys. Yeah, Prop Stars, what do you got, man? I'll start with you and go around.
Diggs is 83.5 last I checked, and Dawson Knox is 39.5. If I had to choose one of those, I'd probably lean a little bit closer to Diggs. Knox has been tremendous this season. I believe he's gone over at least 30 to 35 yards in every single game. I think his total has actually incrementally increased in every single game. He has been a very pleasant surprise for that offense. And yeah, he's a red zone weapon. Allen likes him. I love the fact that he's also running routes deep down the field, but he's also getting his numbers on a very minuscule target share. He's not receiving the sort of volume that I would look for. It's contingent on him breaking off a big play, which he's been able to do, but counting on that week in, week out, to me, is a little bit of a risky game. Whereas Diggs, even though he hasn't gotten the monstrous volume that he received last year, I think partly due to Dawson Knox's emergence. We talked about Manny Sanders, Cole Beasley still in the offense, but he's still the number one passing option on this offense. He's still Josh Allen's number one read. He is still one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL. He is getting a very, very porous Titans secondary. So, yeah, out of those two, I like Diggs. I expect him to flirt with double-digit targets. I think the number is efficient, though. But if we're just looking at these other props, I like that one a little bit more than Dawson Knox. Curious what Sia and Mike's take is on those.
Yeah, you know what? It's Sia, M squared. I'll start with you. Now, we've got Stephon Diggs up here. Jeweler, keep that up. We got 83.5. What was Dawson Knox?
39.5.
39.5. And I'm also going to put this on the screen as well. Good question from Uptown Legends. So, Sia, you go first. Take it wherever you want. Diggs, Knox, Cole Beasley, over 43.5 receiving yards. What are your thoughts?
I don't like any of them. The one I like is probably Emmanuel Sanders. I would probably take him over 58.5. And as I was talking, I noticed that it actually went up to 59.5. I think, if you're looking at just snap share alone in number of routes run, just last week, for example, he ran the most routes out of any receiver. That, of course, includes Stephon Diggs. So I think Sanders is just this guy. He's just this target that is going to be a favorite of Josh Allen. So I think of the four receivers, I like him the most. And I'll point out with Dawson Knox, I think you're kind of chasing points here, and that's kind of DFS jargon, but like you're chasing last week's game, you're chasing maybe a smaller sample size than you should. And by the way, Tennessee's pretty good against the tight end. What they're not good at is defending the receiver position. So that's why I would probably shift away from Dawson Knox and look to, the problem with Cole Beasley, for the record, is I don't know what his snap share is going to be. I don't know what his route share is going to be. If you judge by the last couple weeks, it's not very good. So 43.5 kind of seems like a lot for this Hunter Renfrow type player that can suck up a lot of receptions, but doesn't necessarily get a lot of yards. So I'd rather go with the guys like Stephon Diggs or Emmanuel Sanders, but Sanders is definitely my favorite.
M squared, throw it to you, and you take it any way you want. Sanders, Knox, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs. What are your thoughts there?
So out of all of them, I would still probably lean towards Knox. Allen seems to love him, and he's really kind of a breakout player. We're conditioned to not think he's been that good because of the previous season, but he's really, really good. And the number is still low enough that like we've seen him have the big playability to rack up 30 in one catch. So if I had to pick any of those, I would lean on that one. Manny Sanders would be next, just because I think that number should be 64, 65. Again, there's a lot going on here. And like you said, the defense, they can they can have lapses and give up big plays. So it's not going to shock me if any of them get to their number, but they might score so easily. The Titans still run the ball. They might run the clock. I mean, it should be their game plan, frankly, if they can. That I'm really worried about the high number on Diggs, just because everything could potentially be so easy for Allen that he may not have to take the huge deep shots to Diggs. He might have 10 catches, but he may not ever get over the 88 yards because he might just be dumping to Diggs to get the ball in his hands to try and make plays. So I wouldn't play the over on Diggs. If I had to play the over on any of them, first would be Knox, then would be Sanders. And then that's kind of how I feel about those.
Yeah. Prop stars, you got something?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments for the most part in that I'm not playing any of these props personally. If I had to choose, I'd probably look Sanders first, Diggs second, Knox third, Beasley fourth. But yeah, I think the numbers are all pretty efficient, and yeah, I'm personally not playing any of them.
I got you. Now, M Squared, I'm going to come right back to you. Got a question here from Sean in the chat. Jeremy McNichols, over 14.5 yards receiving. Now, look. We already saw Maestro gave out over Derrick Henry over 13.5 yards receiving on the Early Edge morning show. But M Squared, you've got your fingertip on the pulse here in terms of the team. What are your thoughts on this number, one way or the other?
Yeah, it's super interesting. As someone just said, it was even lower than that. Yeah, it just dropped all the way to 11.5 on DraftKings. At 11.5, I would be interested in it because he could definitely get this on one catch. The only thing that we need to be cautious here with is he was very questionable to play in this game. He did not practice the last 2 days at all, was not even a limited participant. He was a full non-participant in the last 2 practices. I thought that Darrington Evans was going to be activated in time to play in this game. I'm a little surprised that he wasn't. Having said that, at 11.5, I think it's totally fine to take the over on this one. If they find themselves in a negative game script at all, he's definitely going to be out there on the field and have the opportunity to get those dump offs. But just note that he has been very banged up, and there's a chance that he leaves this game early.
Yeah. All right, now another question here. Uptown Legends. And Jeweler, if you could, pull up our official plays one more time just so we can have that on the screen for anybody that came in super late. Want to make sure that they're able to see it. But I'm going to ask this question, and anybody, feel free to jump in. All right, Singletary, over 28.5 rushing yards.
Problem is with this prop, I played it versus the Chiefs. Was that last week or the week prior? That was last week, right?
Last week.
Yep.
Yeah, I played this on SportsLine actually the week prior, and I kind of have a 180 opinion. Obviously, the number is low. Singletary has racked up a lot of yards in 3 of the previous 5 Bills games, but watching his usage, I was not encouraged. He received I think around 6 to 8 touches in the first half, and then the Bills got a lead. Zach Moss became the back that they used to kill clock. Singletary was not on the field very much. When he was on the field, he wasn't getting carries. So while the number is low, I would caution against it. I just think his usage is not where we want it to be for him to comfortably go over that. It's kind of dependent on him having a long run. When he's not getting a lot of volume, it's hard to bank on that. So yeah, I don't like it.
See ya. Your thoughts there?
I totally agree. He only had 7 touches last week in total. That's rushing and receiving. And I think we're starting to see the realization that Zach Moss, who was pretty coveted out of Utah and a great running back in college, I think we're starting to see that he's sort of passing the torch over to Zach a little bit. And so I think Singletary's usage will be similar to what we see last week in terms of how he's used relative to Zach Moss.
Beautiful. All right. Everybody can see those are our official plays are on the screen. Want to make sure that we got those in one final time. Now, here's what we're going to do. Our last question of the show before we wrap it up. All right. Doesn't take any, explanation. I just want a yes or no. All right. Actually, an over under. Sorry. Let me speak correctly here. An over under. And I'm going to put it on the screen here. And see how we're going to start with you.
On the game, the total.
No. Right here. Sorry,
Brandon Cofield's question.
There was a delay in putting it up. I was going for the dramatic effect. It didn't work at all. 4.5 total sacks for the Bills.
Under.
Prop stars.
Shout out Brandon Cofield. He's in my Slack. Under.
M squared.
Yeah, I'll take the under as well. It's a huge number. And I think the Tannehill's skilled enough that he can either get back to the line of scrimmage if it's a run or get rid of the football and throw it away. So I would lean under as well.
All right. I like it. Now, before we head out, everybody, 15 seconds. Thoughts on the game tonight, thoughts on NFL Week 7 lines, anything that you're seeing, really take it anywhere that you want to go. Prop Stars, I'll start with you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm excited about this game. It looks like a very interesting matchup. I want to see Derrick Henry. I always love tuning in. He can't miss must-watch TV. I'm excited to see potentially a healthy Julio Jones in this offense. I made it an official play. I'm backing it. His number is an absolute gift at 47.5, especially if he is healthy or close to near health. A.J. Brown is going to play. We finally get to see the potential of this offense. So, yeah, I'm really excited.
See it.
Bills have had a pretty soft schedule leading up to Tennessee, but I would actually put Tennessee in that soft part of their schedule. Tennessee has their full complements, but there's a reason why the Bills are the Super Bowl favorite in this moment right now, and I think they're going to prove it tonight.
M squared?
Yeah, what Alex said, basically. Julio is one of the biggest edges I've seen all year in terms of the wide receiver number, and I'm happy that he's healthy, happy that everything is ready to go here. It's a huge game for this team playing on their home field, and might look dumb after the fact, but I definitely think the Titans are going to be very close to keeping this one within the 6.5 points.
Yeah, this could be one of those weird games. And I feel you guys in regards to Julio Jones and his props, because A.J. Brown, he could hit his number tonight in one reception, but he could also be out of the game in one play, right? Like, I like you on the Julio plays here. So, everybody, that's all the time we have. We really do appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be live tomorrow morning for the Early Edge at 10 a.m. Eastern. The coach will be with you. But you know what? I'm not going to do it in his voices tonight because nobody wants to hear me do that. But I will say, let's take all these straight to the pay window, just as Coach says. Let's hit some props. Let's finish this week right and get ready for next week. So for my guys, M squared, see ya, Prop Stars, for AB, myself, and the jeweler, who is the man behind the plan. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning.